Hello, Temecula Valley, and welcome back to Uncorking the Issues, the podcast where we pour clarity into Temecula Valley politics. This podcast discusses political and civic issues. The views expressed are solely those of the host and guests and do not represent any political party, campaign, school district, or government entity. I'm your host, Grape Vine, and today's episode is titled Backroom Votes, Teacher Burnout, and the Midnight School Board Circus. We're discussing the March 10th, 2026 Temecula Valley Unified School District Board meeting, a meeting that stretched well past midnight and showcased the two realities currently defining the district. Reality number one, students and educators doing meaningful work in classrooms every day. Reality number two, a school board increasingly consumed by factional politics, distrust, and accusations of backroom dealing. And while the meeting technically started with awards and recognitions, the real story of the night was the political conflict that dominated the agenda for hours. The board consists of Joseph Komrosky, Melinda Anderson, Jennifer Wiersma, Stephen Schwartz, and Emil Barham, with student board member Melissa Chai also seated at the dais. If you've been following Temecula school board politics over the past few years, you already know this board is divided into factions. On one side are trustees who rose to power during the conservative school board wave that swept through parts of California, a movement fueled by culture war politics, book bans, and the promise to take back schools. On the other side are trustees attempting, with mixed success, to steer the district back toward governance that focuses on things like, education. Those factions were visible throughout the entire meeting. But before the fireworks began, the board reported actions taken in closed session. 2 administrative employees were removed from their administrative positions and reassigned to teaching roles starting next school year. The board also voted to deny a legal claim filed against the district. Both decisions passed unanimously. And while no details were provided publicly, personnel decisions like that rarely happen without significant internal conflict. Then came the first major public confrontation of the evening. Teachers. Representing the Temecula Valley Educators Association, union leader Edgar Diaz walked to the podium and delivered what could only be described as a warning shot to the board. Diaz told trustees that teachers in the district are facing increasing workloads while receiving 0% ongoing salary increases. 0. Meanwhile, expectations continue to grow. Teachers are handling larger class sizes, more testing requirements, more special education responsibilities, more administrative reporting, and increasingly more technology troubleshooting as students rely on school-issued devices. And Diaz didn't sugarcoat the consequences. He said, educators are exhausted. He said, younger teachers can't afford to live in Temecula. He said, some staff members are paying enormous portions of their income for healthcare. And then he delivered the line that hung over the rest of the meeting. You cannot build safe schools on the backs of exhausted educators. That message was echoed moments later by Kevin Pahlke from the California School Employees Association, who spoke in solidarity with teachers and reminded the board that fair wages and safe working conditions are essential if districts want to retain staff. And here's the part that makes the situation particularly ironic. While teachers are raising alarms about staffing, burnout, and financial stability, the board has spent the past several years embroiled in culture war battles over books, curriculum, and symbolic political gestures. Teachers are asking for stability. The board keeps delivering chaos, which brings us to the next controversy of the night, the Brown Act dispute. For those unfamiliar, the Brown Act is California's open meeting law. It exists for one reason, to prevent elected officials from making decisions behind closed doors before voting in public. A cure and correct demand had been filed alleging that members of the board may have privately coordinated a leadership vote before it occurred during a public meeting. Translation, accusations of backroom deal-making. Public Speaker Danny Molina kicked off the public comment portion by attacking local activist Jeff Pack, accusing him of stirring political chaos and mocking the legal complaint as something that looked like it had been written by artificial intelligence, which, in Temecula politics, is about as close to a mic drop as people get. But then Jeff Pack himself stepped up to the microphone, and Pack came prepared. He accused the district's legal counsel of dismissing his complaint without conducting any real investigation. According to Pack, the district did not examine phone records, did not review emails, did not determine whether trustees had discussed the leadership vote privately. Instead, the district simply concluded there was no violation. Pack wasn't satisfied with that answer. He argued that the Brown Act is not just about technical legal compliance. It's about public trust. And that trust, he suggested, is rapidly eroding. Pack also accused Trustee Melinda Anderson of unredacting his name from documents related to the complaint and suggested the move was retaliatory. Then he went further. He questioned Anderson's shifting alliances on the board and suggested political maneuvering may have influenced the leadership vote. At that point, the room had fully transitioned from school board meeting to political cage match. But the next speaker made things even more interesting. Jennifer Sanchez, who made it clear she doesn't always agree with Jeff Pack, said she believed his concerns about the leadership vote deserved investigation. Her argument was simple and difficult to dispute. If nothing improper happened, an investigation would confirm that. If something did happen, the public deserves to know. It was a moment where even people who disagree politically found themselves asking the same question. What exactly happened behind the scenes? But Temecula politics rarely pauses long enough for reflection. The controversy didn't stop there. About halfway through the public comment period, the discussion shifted to student political activism and the growing influence of national political groups inside local schools, specifically Turning Point USA. Turning Point USA is a national conservative organization that has spent the past several years building student clubs at high schools and colleges across the country. And Temecula has become one of the places where that influence has become particularly visible. During public comment, a speaker addressed statements made by trustees praising Jessica Tapia and supporting the presence of politically active student clubs. Tapia, a former teacher who gained national attention after being dismissed from another district and becoming a conservative education activist, has been praised by some Temecula trustees and activists. According to the speaker, Joseph Komrosky and Jennifer Wiersma had publicly praised Tapia and defended the idea that student clubs, including those connected to Turning Point USA, should encourage opposing viewpoints and political debate. But the speaker challenged that framing. She argued that if opposing viewpoints are truly welcome in Temecula schools, then students who speak out against those views should not be dismissed as disruptive or accused of harassment. She emphasized that students are capable of thinking for themselves. Disagreement, she said, is not intimidation. Protest is not harassment. It is participation. She also raised concerns about the role of religion and ideology in public education, emphasizing that schools must serve students from many different beliefs and backgrounds. Her message was direct. Public schools should be places where students learn democracy, not places where their voices are questioned when they disagree with political narratives promoted by adults. That moment highlighted something bigger happening in Temecula, because the district is no longer just debating policies, it's debating what public education itself should represent. And increasingly, national political movements are shaping those debates. The board quickly moved on to one of the most significant policy decisions of the night, the creation of a Community Facilities District, or CFD. A CFD allows a district to impose special taxes within a designated area in order to finance infrastructure projects like schools and parks. In this case, the district proposed creating CFD number 2026-1 to help finance future school facilities and park infrastructure connected to development in the valley. The process included a required public hearing and several procedural votes. Then came the final vote to establish the district, and the result revealed another clear divide on the board. The measure passed 3-2. Voting yes were Melinda Anderson, Emil Barham, and Stephen Schwartz. Voting no were Joseph Komrosky and Jennifer Wiersma. Now, if you've been watching Temecula school board politics, you know that when votes split like this, it rarely reflects simple policy disagreement. More often, it reflects the underlying political alliances shaping board decisions. After the CFD vote, the meeting continued with several hours of additional reports and discussions. District staff explained that regulatory mandates from the state continue to increase operational costs. Examples included requirements for menstrual product dispensers and restrooms, organic waste diversion programs, and new environmental and compliance regulations. Each mandate adds costs, but funding rarely follows. So districts are expected to absorb those expenses while maintaining services, which again circles back to the teachers who earlier warned that resources are already stretched thin. Near the end of the meeting, trustees discussed future agenda items. One trustee requested a future presentation on artificial intelligence and its relationship to student cell phone policies, suggesting the district will eventually need to address how AI tools affect classroom learning. Another trustee made a point of saying they would only request agenda items directly related to student achievement. Whether that was a policy statement or a subtle critique of recent board priorities is up for interpretation, but it definitely landed. After more than 6 hours of discussion, public comment, procedural votes, and political sparring, the board finally adjourned shortly after midnight. And the contrast between the beginning and the end of the meeting couldn't have been clearer. At the start of the night, students were presenting achievements, teachers were celebrating classroom success, and staff were being honored for protecting students during an emergency. By the end of the night, the conversation had shifted to accusations of backroom politics, labor disputes, and a deeply divided board struggling to maintain public trust. Which raises the obvious question. If students can work together on teams, performances, and community projects, why can't the adults running the district manage the same thing? This has been Uncorking the Issues, where we keep pouring clarity into Temecula Valley politics. I'm your host, Grape Vine. And remember, in Temecula politics, the cork always pops eventually.